It's Devember 2021, the judging. I know. We're into February. Look, we had 77 entries for Devember, and we had a few projects in particular that were just completely insane. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to name a couple of finalists, and I'm not sure how we're going to do it exactly, but I would love to have the community's input on which of the finalists should win a grand prize. And also the finalists can say, hey, I'm more interested in like the Linode prize. So you get a ton of Linode credits and swag. That's one of the prizes. But I've also got some hardware to give away, some older motherboards, things like, Z170, Z270, quad core CPUs, maybe a couple of hex core CPUs. And so if I name you a finalist, let me know what you're interested in. I might have a monitor to give away. I might have like a mid-range older GPU, but those are harder to get a hold of. Maybe one or two GPUs, like a 5600 XT, or maybe like a 1080 or a 1080 Ti, something like that. A 1650 Super, maybe somewhere through there. I'm still going through a pile of parts. Probably a couple AMD CPUs. And maybe an Intel CPU or two. And so, yes, Devember. Let's take a look at the Devember thread because there's a lot we can learn. All right, so this is the thread, and you can go and you can follow along with me if you want. Some really good stuff here. All right, Fred, this first post, first up, this is in no particular order. A PixMap 565, convert between bitmap 565 and RGB 565. This is actually useful for embedded systems, and their GitHub is getting a fair bit of traffic, and you can learn about that and see some really interesting stuff. We can actually go to a new thread here and take a look at it. It's like, okay, this is like a touch map kind of thing, and then it's running here on this. So it's pretty cool stuff. Seems really, really awesome. Good job. Pretty well documented. I would have liked to have maybe a little bit more info, but hey, very, very impressive. Very, very good work. 700 lines of code. This user, my project post control center, an MSP client for doing stuff. MSP stands for Managed Service Provider. A managed Service Provider is fancy word, for saying computer janitor. It's like this is software to help you keep track of which toilets you've cleaned when, and what the password is for stall number 2, and crap like that. So it's pretty good write up here. Pretty good engagement with the community, and the GitHub link is here. And so it seems like a fair bit of work. There's one issue on GitHub, couple really interesting things here. Apache license, one person's watching it. So some interest from GitHub. So this is good. So this is, I think this is one of our finalists, just barely, because they did a pretty good job with documentation. They added an animated GIF to their GitHub. It's pretty good. It's not bad. If anybody sees a reason why finalists should be disqualified, like they borrowed a project from somewhere else en masse, let me know. You can, it's like, I've motivated the internet to go and find problems with somebody else's thing. Flexible fitness logger that works. This is a pretty cool project as well. It's like, here's a CS graduate. They're going to use Golang, Mongo. See, this is great. This is a great Devember project because you learn some stuff, you put it together. There's some engagement with the community because it's like, what framework should I use? How should this work? This is a really, really great project, really good write-up. I almost really wanted to make this a finalist, but it's not quite there. Some of these other projects are just so bananas. Punch Clock web application. So we have a punch clock web application here is to build a full stack manual activity tracking application. I built a web application where I can clock into and out of any activity, such as reading a book, working on a side project, doing exercise. This is actually a really useful technique for managing your time, because you'd be surprised how much time you waste on Twitter and you waste dealing with, there are people in your life that are more than happy to gleefully waste your time. And if you have something like this, you can sort of keep a running tally and say, wow, this is probably a really toxic relationship that I probably should end and not really be dealing with this anymore. This is a great application for that. The write-up here is pretty good. The coding is pretty solid. There's a lot to like about this project. Definitely check it out. I kind of want this to be a finalist. Nestle Toilet Water. Brewing stats server. My Devember project is to upgrade my homebrew heating control system from hard-coded single Python script that requires SSH jumps to get the stats onto an interactive front-end website that the backend scripts take instructions from post-to. This is a great project for Devember because there's a lot of really, strange choices here, but that's great. That's great because this is something that somebody chose to do to experiment with technology and see how far they could take it and to solve a particular problem for them. And that is great. And the documentation here is good, and the write-up is good, and there's some very, sort of very good explanation of how they're going to use a Raspberry Pi and a temperature probe and a mains relay. It's definitely not UL listed. Can't really sanction that. But this is pretty awesome. It's like, this is lemon pale ale that I brewed on the hardware setup shown here. This deck is not a beer forum. I won't go into beer details, but I will say that the recipe is, whatever. Oh, way to gatekeep beer making. Thanks. Nevertheless, this is a finalist. And next up, my idea is a Telegram bot that notifies you of Congress Critter stock trades. Now, I'm pretty sure that you're not the famous one, the first person to do this, right? But nevertheless, this is a really cool project, and this is pretty much an instant finalist. So this is a Telegram bot that notifies you of how a Congress Critter has traded. You can mirror their trades, and if you do that, you will be up kind of significantly in terms of trades on the stock market. So this is pretty good work, I think. Again, I didn't go super deep on these, but pretty good work. Next up is the What to Watch list. Combined services from the MovieDB and Privacy.com. This project is my attempt at creating a service I've wished existed but found myself starting and stopping too many times since the start of the global situation. I'm posting in hopes I'll force myself to stay on target. I've watched a lot of Netflix. The recommendation algorithm is nowhere near as good as YouTube, where the media never ends and clickbait is aplenty. So we can actually check it out, whattowatchlist.com, and you can sign up and check that out. This is pretty cool. This is borderline almost finalist material, I think, because I can definitely tell they put in a lot of work and the project is really cool. So I'll keep this as like a reserve finalist. Not quite finalist, but maybe. My Devember project is a continuation of last year's Devember project. Here's the GitHub link. It's a CPU simulator in Python. I'm essentially making it / rewriting a CPU simulating engine. Most of the challenge will be under the hood, less duct tape. This is a great learning project. It's really awesome. The forum thread for the project has great documentation, pictures, excellent use of stuff. This is definitely a finalist. It's a continuation of another project, so it's kind of like, I don't know. We didn't make any rules about that. It's like, TLDR, I didn't get something usable by the end of Devember, but I also think I wrote the equivalent of a small book with this project, so yay. That is good enough. That's one of our lower tier finalists. Definitely get something, but you might not get, your pick of prizes. Engel's developing a game. My project for this year's Devember is a Zelda-like game, NES/NES style, currently titled Project QFTLC. I finished up the first boss, a giant blob, did some more work, got the dialogue system in place, got my base goals. Now that Devember is over, I can spend some time cleaning up the various rushed areas, fixing bugs, and doing some other stuff. This project you should definitely check out. This is a finalist. Sci-Fi has been working on creating an open source crypto wallet. They made some great progress on that project, looks like. I'm not in a position to audit the crypto and see how well it works, but if there's anybody in the community that wants to take a look at that, let me know. There's excellent documentation along with a warning that says, hey, this is very, very, very early stage. It is open source. I think we can make this a finalist. My Devember project has created a server to client for listening to audiobooks with the ability to keep track of the position in the audiobook across devices. That sounds super handy. This one has a demo server if you want to check it out. This one, again, honorable mention, maybe another lower tier finalist, almost a finalist. There's a lot of things I like about this project. Great documentation, great write-up, great motivation, great energy from the author. It's genuinely useful. It's laser focused on one specific thing. It's like, I have audiobooks. I want to track my position in audiobooks across a whole bunch of different devices. Why not stream that from the internet? There was a project for a distributed WAN file system for media actually working. Not much has changed. I've been busy playing Minecraft. Oops, but I'll post an update anyway. In fact, there isn't much left to add or fix anymore regardless. We've been using it in production for a few weeks without issues. Performance is only bottlenecked by Tahoe LAFS at this point, not my mount client. The mount client is now supports logging to syslog. So this is a project that's kind of taking off in the community for distributed file system stuff. It's not overly complicated. The project wasn't crazy ambitious. from the beginning, and it's kind of read-only, so, my Fuse mount client. So this is pretty good. So maybe not quite. I don't know. Should this be a finalist? I don't know. I'll quickly mention the Quick Music Sampler. Problem: finding new music requires me to listen to large chunks of songs I have little to no interest in, as well as scrubbing through songs looking for the hook drop in the song. When creating a song playlist of new songs, these little bits of time searching really start to add up. Solution: create a music sampling app that automatically starts each song at the hook drop of the song. The user can then click a button to add the song to a playlist, or click another button for the next song. Clicking the next song button would also start the song at the first hook drop of the song. In short, movies have trailers and books have summaries. Hopefully this helps people find new tunes even quicker. Linode, Golang, MySQL. This is a surprisingly complete project, and I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage because I don't understand music. So there is actually a demo server you can take and play with. So, if if you see this and it's like, no, that totally needed to be a finalist, let me know. We'll send them a t-shirt, mouse pad, something. Northern Wing, another one signing on. This thread's been up for a few weeks though. Architecting a TTA processor core. So this one is a very, very deep development log, can be found at winterstorm.com. Oh boy, they have gone off the deep end. This project looks like it's one of the most involved Devember projects that there has ever been. I mean, my goodness, building your own, this looks just completely insane. So yeah, finalist. And finally, our last finalist, the brutally simple Firewall. Only a couple of days left in December, and previously said I would upload the project to GitHub and post it for Devember 2021. Here it is. You should definitely check this one out on GitHub. This is a really cool project. This is a brutally simple firewall. And I know what you're thinking. I know how to use IP tables. I know how to use UFW. I was thinking the same thing. But then I sat down and I read this, and I thought about it, and it's actually very nice. It's a good way of thinking about this kind of thing. 6,898 blocked in the last 2 hours, 64 in the last 24 hours. Got my first automated subdomain attack a couple of days ago. 420 subdomains in less than 1 minute. There's actually some really sophisticated stuff going on here when you take a look and unpack it. So this is another project that I would recommend that you take a look at, because you can deploy this really easily and end up with an incredibly intelligent but simple firewall. It is brutally simple, but in that simplification, you really haven't lost any of the subtlety and nuance of being able to run your own firewall engine. If anything, it's so brutally simple that it kind of does help you separate the noise from the signal, because there's always going to be stuff on your firewall, but there's certain things, if you've been targeted individually, you need to be able to pick out that traffic versus just the background hum of the internet. And this is a project that would give you a pretty good start at doing that. There are at least a dozen other Devember projects that I didn't mention. Be sure to check out the Devember thread on the Level 1 forum, and each project creator also created their own separate thread to discuss their project and their thinking, ideally, not all of them did, and their progress along the way. And it is a really fun journey. You can get a lot of inspiration, and you can learn something from all of those repos. It took me an inordinate amount of time to sit down and look through every single project, and I can tell that there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that went into these projects. There's some really incredibly talented people in the Level 1 community. There's some really incredibly talented people that have an inordinate amount of free time. I'm envious of your free time, and I'm envious of your talent for putting some of this together. Now, some of the submissions, they're more newbie programmer, but they're learning, and they're taking time, and they're working on projects like this to improve themselves. And anything like that should definitely be commended. So I think I've got my list of finalists. Now all I have to do is figure out which prize goes to what finalist. And, if you want to help me pick out anybody that I've missed, or help me promote a near finalist to finalist state, then hey, chime in on the Level 1 forums. I'm Wendell, I'm signing out. You can find me there.